Is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet. Check out our website at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media. This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
Over the next 40 years, the United States population is going to grow by over 90 million people, and almost all that growth is going to be in cities. What's the healthiest and best way for them to grow so that they really become cauldrons of prosperity and cities of opportunity? What we have found is that if that family is moved into safe, green, affordable housing, places that have access to great school systems, access to jobs, and multiple transportation modes, then the neighborhood begins to thrive and really take off. The oxygen of community redevelopment is financing. And all this rebuilding that happened could not have happened without organizations like Citi.
One of the things that we really try to do is to collaborate with people like Jonathan Rose, who are really like-minded and really can also provide innovative solutions to social issues.
And Citi has formed a partnership with our company so that we can take all the lessons from the revitalization of urban America to other cities. So we're now working in Chicago and in Washington, D.C., and Newark.
It's branching off of Jonathan's expertise and the fact that he has done so many wonderful affordable housing projects, new development and rehabilitation work. And so we were really seeing that there was a need for his skill in areas even outside of New York.
It's amazing how important safe, affordable housing is to the future of our society.
You meet new people, they want to know what you do. And when you tell them your job is to invest in things like low-income housing and schools and healthcare, they're shocked and they're so surprised that a job like this exists in finance. They always say that they had no idea, and then they want to know how they can get a job like that.
It's not about how many miles you can get out of the C-Max Hybrid. It's about how much life you can fit into it. The Ford C-Max Hybrid, with an EPA estimated range of 540 miles on a tank of gas, and all the room you need to enjoy the trip. Go stretch out. Go further.
You think you know the story of Dracula. You have no idea. But I'm going to show you.
My enemies threaten to destroy my kingdom. I want the power to save my family.
Dreams.
Welcome to your life.
My name is Dracula.
What's happening to you?
I chose this. Because men do not fear swords. They fear monsters.
This is not who you are.
There's always a prize for power.
Everybody wants to rule.
I will not be defeated!
Dracula Untold, in theaters and IMAX, October 10th. The Ouija board has existed for centuries. It is used to communicate with the dead.
If there's a presence here, please make yourself known. This is a joke. Oh my God. It's not even real, okay?
It's just a game.
Ouija.
We're saying goodbye!
Rated PG-13.
This ain't no rag, it's a flag, and we don't wear it on our heads. It's a symbol of the land where the good guys live. Are you listening to what I said? You a coward and a fool, and you broke all the rules, and you wounded our American pride. And now we're coming with a gun, and you know you're gonna run, but you can't find no place to hide. We're gonna hunt you down like a mad dog or hound, make you pay for the lies you stole. We're all through talking talking and the messing around, and now it's time to rock and roll. These colors don't run and we speak as one. When we say united we stand. If you mess with one, you mess with us all. Every boy, girl, woman, and man. You've been acting mighty rash and talking that trash. Let me give you some advice. You can crawl back in your hole like a dirty little mole, but now it's time to pay the price. You might have shot us in the back, now you have to face the fact that the big boy's in the game. And the thunder's been crashing and the lightning's been flashing, and now it's getting ready to rain. This is the United States of America, the land of the brave and free. We believe in God, we believe in justice, we believe in liberty. You better pull a knot chain, we should have done something about you a long time ago. But now the flag's flying high and the fur's gonna fly, soon the whole world's gonna know. But this ain't no rag, it's a flag, old glory, red, white, and blue. The stars and the stripes, when it comes to a fight, we can do what we have to do. Our people stand proud, the American crowd's faithful and loyal and tough. Are we as good as the best and better than the rest? You're gonna find out soon enough. When you look up in the sky and you see the eagle fly, you better know he's headed your way. This ain't no rag, it's a flag and it stands for the USA. USA! 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 When you look up in the sky and you see the eagle fly, you better know he's headed your way. Cause this ain't no rag, it's a flag and it stands for the USA.
Congratulations to the flag of the United States of America. To the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are living in times where there is an assault on sanity. Political correctness has run amok and logic has been left by the wayside. Do you constantly ask yourself, WTF is going on in this nation? Do you sometimes feel like a stranger in your own country? Well, fear not. You are not alone. This is the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Show, coming to you from deep inside flyover country with your hosts, V. Wright and Jose Estevez.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to WTF, the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Show. I'm your host, V. Wright.
And I am Jose Estevez, your undocumented Mexican-American co-host, living the dream and looking forward to casting at least 2 votes in the upcoming midterms in less than 2 weeks. And this is the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Show.
Wow. Yep, 2 weeks, and you get to... Hey, you know what? If you go... There are other places you could go, and you could cast all the votes you wanted to. Like Arizona.
I'm telling you what, I'll just bring a big old stack with me. How would that be?
There you go.
For all my cousins and my sister and everyone else.
I think one of your homeboys already did that, didn't he?
One of my homeboys. Yes. Yes, ma'am. One of my homeboys. Yep. Keeping the fires burning.
Yo, homie.
We haven't even started with the cemeteries yet. We got to get over there yet. We We got some work to do. People are just dying to vote for the Democrats.
I mean to tell you.
Vote Republican your whole life. As soon as you're dead, you can cast multiple votes for Democrats every election cycle.
Yeah, and all those 164-year-old people in New York, God bless them.
I tell you, I just can't believe that. That's got to be some sort of record or something over there in New York City. Wow.
I mean to tell you. Guys, we've got an excellent show for you guys planned today. Unfortunately, I have bad news. We had intended on bringing Jill Tamarisi in, and given her job at a hospital, they had an Ebola drill. And so she was not able to make it tonight, but she did say that she would be here. She would come visit with us as soon as possible. And she asked that you guys please forgive her for having to not being able to be here tonight. Unfortunately, her work obligation is as a supervisory position, and when they have an Ebola drill, she has to go. So we wish her the best with that, and we're actually going to carry on with the information that she had provided for us. And what you say, Jose? Shall we play that now?
I think we should. Yes, let's do that.
Okay.
Andrew grew up in South Florida. I think a very typical life for a young boy, always playing outside. He had lots of friends. He loved to be active. He's always been very fit and adventurous. He was really into go-karts and ATVs and dirt bikes. He was always involved, playing Little League baseball. He loved PE. He enjoyed to serve. In his teenage years, he would serve at the church. Had a great network of social friends. Just an easy, fun-loving guy who loved to be outside, loved to partake in the South Florida weather and the activities that are natural to South Florida.
On March 31st of this year, Sergeant Andrew Tamarisi, a 25-year-old decorated U.S. Marine inactive reservist, was on his way to San Diego from a border town near Mexico when he took a wrong turn onto a highway ramp he believed led north to the city. Within a few hundred feet, the ramp instead swept south with no turnaround access. It was a funnel straight into Mexico. Sergeant Tamarisi had just moved to San Diego from Florida and was unfamiliar with the area, which is notorious for confusing even local travelers. Having not yet secured permanent housing, he had all his belongings in his truck, including personal firearms legally purchased in the U.S. With no American presence at the border, Sergeant Tamarisi tried getting help from 911 to no avail. Despite having told the Mexican authorities he had personal firearms in his truck, and despite his explanation that he never intended to enter Mexico, and his request to turn back, Mexican authorities arrested Andrew on weapons charges. He was placed into the general population at La Mesa State Penitentiary in Tijuana, where his life was threatened by both inmates and guards. After 35 days in a 4-point restraint, Sergeant Tamarisi was moved to El Hongo Federal Prison, where he's guarded 24/7 in solitary confinement. Andrew Tamarisi has served our country with honor and distinction. He served 2 tours in Afghanistan, received a battlefield promotion, survived a roadside bomb, saved the lives of 8 Marines, and he was in the process of overcoming his PTSD. Now, Andrew is fighting for his freedom. He's fighting for his life, and he needs our help. You can help by going to Andrew Freedom Fund and signing the petition to President Obama to work for Andrew's release. You can also help by contributing to offset costs of his legal defense and other expenses. Help bring Andrew home.
All right. And that was led into by Jill Tamarisi herself.
Yeah, folks, you remember Sergeant Andrew Tamarisi. We've been keeping him at the forefront here at the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot show. That's that young United States Marine Corps sergeant that served 2 tours, outstanding young man, and he's been sitting in a prison in Mexico, actually his second prison in Mexico, since earlier this year when he made a wrong turn, carrying 3 firearms in his vehicle and some ammunition. He was very honest about that at the border checkpoint, and yet was still arrested, and he's been sitting down there ever since. Transferred from one prison to the next. He's in rough shape. He does have PTSD. He's not receiving any form of treatment, and I'm sure it's not getting any better being in a Mexican prison. There's been something introduced in Congress by Representative Ted Poe from Texas, and that was done back on June 11, 2014. Some way you can help, folks, is if you contact your Congress critter, would be a good idea. Refer them to House Resolution 620, House Resolution 620. I'm going to read that. It's very brief. Quote, expressing the sense of the House of Representatives that the government of Mexico should immediately release United States Marine Sergeant Andrew Tamaresi and provide for his swift return to the United States so Sergeant Tamaresi can receive the appropriate medical assistance for his medical condition. And it goes a little bit further. It breaks it down and just says that the government of Mexico should release U.S. Marine Sergeant Andrew Tamaresi and provide for his return to the United States so he can receive appropriate medical assistance. And 2, the president should utilize the full powers and authorities of his office to secure Sergeant Tamaresi's release. The president is aware of this from all the reports I've read. Members of the regime at high levels are aware of it and have yet done by all accounts, have done nothing to help him out. Yet Bo Bergdahl was, they sought his release and traded 5 top Taliban murderers for him. Yet our Marine Sergeant Andrew Tamaresi is rotting down in Mexico, and we need to get him back, folks. This is serious stuff. You can help. You can post this, cross-post this on Facebook, talk to people, contact your Congress critters about House Resolution 620. Tell them to do something about that. And something needs to be done here, folks. He needs to get back to the United States. By all accounts, he made a mistake, admitted to it, and he's been suffering for it ever since. We need to get him back home to the United States so he can get treatment and be done with this for once and for all. It's been way, way too long. So keep him at the forefront. Pray for him, folks. I believe V's got some information about how we can support financially if you're able to do so. But get that information out there. Let's keep that name out there until we get him back on United States soil.
Yeah, you guys want to share AndrewFreedomFund.com. That's AndrewFreedomFund.com. That is an available link if you would like to donate to the legal fees. The legal fees have been outrageous, and yes, many people have given, but we don't know how long this is going to go on. So if you would like to help contribute to the Tamarisi Legal Defense Fund, you can do that. And also, there is a link there that will allow you to sign the petition to President Pandemic to move forward with the House resolution bill that has been introduced. So, put pressure on D.C. to actually do something. For whatever good that it does to do that, we really have to put every effort into it. Andrew does suffer from PTSD, and I have spoken with people recently about what that is like. And to be held in isolation in restraints for 35 days.
Can you imagine that, V, being in a Mexican prison?
We don't do that to our prisoners here convicted of murder. We do not restrain them in isolation for 35 days.
Oh, of course not.
Much less a decorated military veteran who suffers from PTSD that made an honest mistake.
I know. Like I said, he admitted his mistake. He told him he had the 3 guns and the ammunition in the vehicle. And like I said last week when we were talking about this, that one story said there are 18 cameras at that border checkpoint going into Mexico, and all of them showed that he appeared to be, like he just wasn't able to turn around. It sounds like too much traffic, and he got going the wrong way. But like you said, he immediately disclosed, that he wasn't trying to go across. Yeah, I got some guns here and stuff like that. I need to get turned around, and he's immediately apprehended and been sitting down there ever since for
Can you watch me do the U-turn? He asked, "Can you watch me do the U-turn right here?"
Yep. I mean, come on. This is some games at a very high level. I think.
But we got Bergdahl.
But we got Bergdahl. We only had to give 5 scumbag murderers for him.
Yeah, those fine upstanding prisoners of war that were returned to their homeland to join ISIS.
Well, they vowed to immediately, go back and start killing, murdering, whatever else they do down over there.
Raping and pillaging.
I don't think we rehabilitated them.
You don't think, really?
I'm just guessing we didn't.
Yeah, I know. I would gather to think that you're probably correct.
I would think so too. I think those are what you would call hardcore. So, folks, keep him in your prayers. Try to support if you can, and if you can't do it financially, at least, like I said, get the information out there, share it with your friends, contact your Congress critters about HR 620. Let's try to make something happen here. I mean, we're coming into the holidays. The guy's been down there since the spring. One prison now transferred to another. I mean, I've been to Mexico a couple times. I can't imagine sitting for a minute in a Mexican jail or prison, much less for as long as he's been there. And I do believe that this is all directly related to Fast and Furious and the gun walking that happened early on during the regime in the early years, about 6 years ago, and resulted in the loss of our Border Patrol agent Brian Terry being murdered by one of those guns. And I do believe that this has something to do with that. And at a high level, Mexico's trying to make a point. I don't agree with it whatsoever, but irregardless, our Marine needs to come home.
I cannot say it any better. And you have a companion story somewhat to that, don't you? Some things.
Which one is that, V?
I was thinking the Fast and Furious.
Oh, Fast and Furious. Oh, my goodness.
Didn't we get some new information today via Judicial Watch?
Judicial Watch. Yeah, we sure did. Folks, you're not going to believe. Well, no, you will believe this.
Nothing is beyond belief anymore.
Nothing is beyond belief. Here's the headline ripped straight out of the news. Obama asserts Fast and Furious executive privilege claim for Eric Holder's wife. Not for Eric Holder himself, but for Eric Holder's wife. And it's directly related to Fast and Furious because evidently Eric Holder had exchanged emails with his wife. It says there's nearly 20 email communications between Holder and his spouse, Sharon Malone. And the regime claims that the records are also subject to withholding under the deliberative process exemption because evidently he's discussed Fast and Furious with his wife, and they don't want, that shouldn't be getting out there. Wow. Isn't this the most transparent regime we've ever had or was supposed to be?
Oh, absolutely. You didn't know that? This is transparency. They're transparently telling you it's none of your doggone business.
Their transparency is about as opaque as, staring in the darkest of night at 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that and trying to see your hand in front of your face. I mean, this is just ridiculous. So now Eric Holder's wife is pulled into that. And folks, you might remember, she supposedly owns, well, her and Mr. Holder own part of an abortion clinic somewhere down south. They've tried to hide it through a trust. But
tell me it's not in abortion Barbie's district.
No, I believe it might be in Georgia or somewhere. No, it's not in Texas. But these people are just despicable. Just despicable. But anyway, Obama says now that Eric Holder's wife gets to have executive privilege on Fast and Furious. I mean, they are blocking everything to do with this. And I'll tell you what, where there's smoke, there's fire. If they're trying to block it, there's got to be something there. Just like the missing hard drives over at IRS with Lois Lerner, and her abuse of power against American citizens. Yep, transparency, folks. We got it in spades here. Can I say that? Is that racist?
Absolutely. Nah. It's only racist if you've went to sensitivity training lately.
Oh, we'll talk about that later. I'm trying to get healed.
But let's talk about this for just a second, Neil. We know that the Terry family has a foundation. We need to work on seeing if we can't, get some promotional going for their foundation and see if we can have them come in and discuss some of this with us and, what they can and tell us more about their foundation, what they do.
I agree. And as long as I draw breath, we're going to remember the name of Brian Terry. We're going to remember Andrew Tamaresi. We're going to remember all these names.
Shaun White.
Yes.
Tyrone Woods.
Benghazi, the Benghazi Four. Chris Stevens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're going to remember all these names, and we're going to keep saying them over and over, and we're going to work on getting their families, get the word out, and hopefully someday they're all going to have justice. Hopefully. We can pray for that, and we can do our best to make sure it happens.
We laugh a lot on this show, or we try to, because we know the news that we bring forward is just so deflating if you do not bring it with some levity. But there are some things that we're not playing about.
No.
And Benghazi and Fast and Furious and Sergeant Andrew Tamaresi, we're not playing about those folks, and you shouldn't either. There's, when we start talking about the lives of our own lost at the hands of Comrade Califf and this regime, promoting their own little personal agenda rather than for the purpose of protecting this nation. Yeah, I'm not playing about that.
No, I am not either. And in fact, can we go right into something else, V?
Sure we can.
It's a somber day for those of you that might remember Sunday, October 23, 1983, 31 years ago today. We lost 241 United States service members murdered at the hands of an Islamic jihadist during the bombing of the Marine barracks in Beirut. Folks, this was the single biggest loss of Marines since the Battle of Iwo Jima. We lost 220 United States Marines, we lost 18 sailors, and we lost 3 soldiers that day, 31 years ago. At around 6:22 a.m., a 19-ton yellow Mercedes-Benz stake truck drove to the Beirut International Airport, where the U.S. 24th Marine Amphibious Unit were deployed. The truck was not the water truck they had been expecting. Instead, it was a hijacked truck carrying explosives. The driver turned his truck onto an access road leading to the compound. He drove into and circled the parking lot, and then he accelerated to crash through a 5-foot-high barrier of concertina wire separating the parking lot from the building. The wire popped, according to people on scene, quote, like somebody walking on twigs. This truck then passed between 2 sentry posts and through an open vehicle gate in the perimeter chain-link fence, crashed through a guard shack in front of the building, smashed into the lobby of the building, serving as the barracks for the 1st Battalion, 8th Marines. The sentries at the gate were operating under rules of engagement, which made it very difficult to respond quickly to the truck. Unfortunately, they were ordered to keep their weapons at Condition 4, which means they had no magazine inserted and no rounds in the chamber. Only one sentry, Lieutenant Corporal Eddie DeFranco, was able to load and chamber a round. However, by that time, the truck was already crashing into the building's entryway. The suicide bomber was an Iranian national named Ismail Askari. He detonated the explosives, which were later estimated to be equivalent to 21,000 pounds of TNT. The force of the explosion collapsed the 4-story building into rubble, crushing many inside. According to Eric Hamill in his history of the U.S. Marine Landing Force, quote, the force of the explosion initially lifted the entire 4-story structure, shearing the bases of the concrete-supported columns, each measuring 15 feet in circumference and reinforced by numerous 1 3/4-inch steel rods. The airborne building then fell in upon itself. A massive shockwave and ball of flaming gas was hurled in all directions. Folks, we lost 241 service members 31 years ago today. We honor their memory at the bombing of the Marine barracks in Beirut and pray for their souls, and something we never want to forget about.
Absolutely. we have a tendency in this country to forget things, and some things we cannot forget, because when you forget things, you're destined to repeat them. And as you were talking about that story, and you were talking about our soldiers there, our military there, basically weaponless, all I could think was Fort Hood.
Right, and also the Navy Yard too. We have not learned our lessons.
No,
and that was a battle. I mean, Beirut. Wow, that was like. That was serious. I mean, and that was during Reagan. I mean, let's face it. And that was their rules of engagement. They didn't have magazines inserted or rounds in the chamber.
Some things never change unless we force change. Guys, we got to take a break. We'll be back in just a few moments. You guys stick with us. We've got a special guest coming up.
This is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet. Check out our website at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media. This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
Dad, Katy Perry is coming to town. Can we get tickets, please?
Tickets? Sure, how many?
Well, there's Hannah and Maddie and Jen and Sarah and Sarah.
Whoa, hold on. Here it comes. We can't forget about your older sister.
Thank you.
Seriously? What? I get 2 times the thank you points on each ticket.
Can I come?
Yeah.
The City Thank You Preferred Card. Now earn 2 times the points on entertainment and dining out with no annual fee. To apply, go to city.com/thankyoucards.
The design of the Ford Escape is clearly intended to grab your eye. Oh, and your foot. Huh, ain't that a kick? The Ford Escape with the foot-activated liftgate. Go open up something interesting. Go further.
You think you know the story of Dracula. You have no idea. But I'm going to show you.
My enemies threaten to destroy my kingdom. I want the power to save my family.
Dreams.
Welcome to your life.
My name is Dracula.
What's happening to you?
I chose this. Because men do not fear swords. They fear monsters.
This is not who you are.
There's always a prize for power.
Everybody wants to rule.
I will not be defeated!
Dracula Untold, in theaters and IMAX, October 10th. The Ouija board has existed for centuries. It is used to communicate with the dead.
If there's a presence here, please make yourself known. This is a joke. Oh my God. It's not even real, okay?
It's just a game.
Ouija.
We're saying goodbye!
Rated PG-13.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
We get up each morning and greet our
Welcome back to WTF. I'm V. Wright.
And I'm Jose Estevez.
And we have someone who has joined us, haven't we, Jose?
Yes, we do. Let me introduce him. Our guest tonight is Charles Kaprowicz. He's the founder and national director of Citizen Initiatives, which advances Article 5 single-issue amendment conventions through state legislatures, bypassing Congress, the courts, and executive branch. He has been working to restore our constitutional republic for 41 years with amendments to the Constitution, either through Congress or state legislatures. The Countermand Amendment is his top priority because it restores our Constitution and republic by allowing states to rescind laws and regulatory rulings that are burdensome to citizens, businesses, and industries. The Sovereignty Amendment is also a top priority. State legislatures are the sovereign deliberative body under Article 5, not delegates they send to a convention. With the delegate resolution, delegates are bound and sent to the convention as ambassadors for their legislatures, not free agents. With each proposed amendment, there is an enforcement provision that empowers states to prosecute, under state laws, intentional violators of the provisions in the amendments in the absence of federal prosecution. He has lobbied Congress on behalf of the Unborn Child Amendment and late-term abortion bills twice vetoed by President Clinton, and has received support from the United States Senators, United States Representatives, state legislatures, and pro-life groups. He has been fighting for the unborn child's right to life since January 23, 1973. After hearing the news about the Supreme Court's Roe v. Wade decision the night before, he addressed an outdoor audience at Akron, Ohio. His message was simple: we must overturn Roe v. Wade. We must not give American women the right to decide who lives and dies in America.
Well, in addition to all of this, he is the author of The Unborn Child Amendment, a national strategy to amend the U.S. Constitution through state legislatures, The 11th Nation, America Identified in Prophecy, Reclaiming America through single-issue federal conventions, and his new book, Countermand Amendment, The Missing Piece in the Article 5 Puzzle, will be released soon. He has served in the church as preacher, as elder, deacon, teacher, jail ministry director, and youth director. Charles has been recognized by Entrepreneur Magazine for founding one of America's top 500 entrepreneurial companies. He has been licensed by the National Association of Security Dealers and has been awarded the coveted Authority Author status by Azine Directories. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome the latest member of our CPR Worldwide Media family, and a man I call my friend, Mr. Charles Kaprowicz.
Thank you, V. And I'm honored and humbled by that introduction, and I thank you for that those kind words. But at the same time, I also am honored to be your friend as well, and look forward to becoming a close friend to Jose.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Okay, Charles, why don't you tell us about the Countermand Amendment?
I will. Thank you. And I want to preface it with a bit of an explanation as to why we have a Countermand Amendment moving forward in the states. We have had tremendous success in the states. We've had this year, in the last several months, we now have 14 states that have sponsors for the amendment in order for the states to complete the application on Congress. We've got 2 more that are looking positive, and perhaps 5 that are reviewing it in a positive way. But the idea of the amendment is simply to allow the states to exercise a sovereign authority that our present federal system refuses to allow them to exercise. There are a couple of things that the audience should keep in mind. First of all, we have our Constitution today not because of the founders in the Constitutional Convention, even though they were the ones who framed the Constitution, but we have it because the state legislatures in 1787 through 1781 actually ratified what came out of the Constitution, out of the Convention. the point that I'm attempting to make here is that the legislatures are the sovereign body. The biggest issue at the Constitutional Convention was sovereignty. It was not convention experience, it wasn't legal precedent, it wasn't historical facts, it was sovereignty. The nation-state status that the states had at that time under the Articles of Confederation required all states to unanimously vote in favor of an application and or an amendment in the Article Constitution before it can be changed. Well, this meant that there were many issues that could not be addressed because one state could hold the other 12 hostage. There was a gentleman by the name of George Wythe. Mr. Wythe was a founder, one of the founders and a delegate at the convention. But before the convention started, there was a disagreement as to how the voting should take place. And he put a committee together, and in that committee, they reviewed the claims of some states which wanted voting by population of those states, which meant the bigger states had the bigger say, or the smaller states saying, no, we want one vote per state. They had to solve that issue. Well, because there were more smaller states, the Republican form of voting occurred. And before the convention convened, that issue was settled. That's how important it was. Had he not settled that, we probably wouldn't have had a convention at all.
Right.
As the convention went forward, the second biggest problem was how to pass the sovereignty that the state legislatures were enjoying under the nation-state status that they had under the Articles. How do they pass that on to future generations? It was not going to be by future generations analyzing historical precedent, legal precedent, history, or whatever. It was based on sovereignty. So the sovereignty that those legislatures had was passed on in Article 5, and the only limiting factor that they held out for future generations of legislatures to abide by was that it was for the purpose of proposing amendments, not for the purpose of rewriting the Constitution. The Constitution was to be supreme and it was to be perpetual. And so proposing amendment was the key. And yet at the same time, there was this need to make sure that future generations of legislatures had sovereign authority to define the convention. Because in the effort of amending a constitution, either through Congress proposing it, the states still had to ratify it. But if Congress didn't propose an amendment, the states could apply for a convention, and in that convention decide what amendments were to be ratified. All of that is simply to say sovereignty was the key issue. Our biggest task in citizen initiatives and with the Countermand Amendment is to help legislatures to understand that they alone have the sovereign deliberative authority to conduct a convention. They do not need to succumb to the influence of anybody, not even the governor in their state. Article 5 is reserved just for them. It's because of that we can restore this Constitution through state legislatures. Now, some have argued that you have to do it, you have to make an application on Congress in such a way where Congress has to abide by, has to be satisfied that your methodology and your purposes and everything else about what you're doing is to their satisfaction. Or that it could be challenged by the Supreme Court. And therefore you want to avoid that, so you write your applications carefully with that. Or maybe the executive branch would oppose it in some fashion. All of that is nonsense. The fact is, when you're sovereign, you don't need to ask Congress for anything. You don't need to ask the legislature for anything. It was the legislatures that created our federal government. They created through the founders, they created the Constitution, and they can amend it today and modify it so that they can have some influence on the conduct of the federal government. They don't need anyone else's permission to be able to decide what those amendments and rules ought to be. And when they ratify an amendment, whatever it may turn out to be, then the Supreme Court has to abide by it. The legislatures alone tell the Supreme Court what the rules are, and Congress has to abide by it, and even the executive branch, and of course the regulatory agents, which are totally out of control today, they have to abide by it. So the legislatures are the key, and because they have for so long been told that they have no authority other than what Congress allows them to have by many of these other groups that have opposed Article 5, the legislatures had for 30 plus years been paralyzed. Now that's beginning to change. And if you have a comment or a question, I will surely be glad to address it.
I do have a question, Charles. I hear many people discussing a constitutional amendment, a constitutional convention, excuse me. And I know that you are not for that, and as you've explained it to me in the past, it is not a good idea. Can you explain to our listening base why a constitutional convention is not a good idea?
This is a station.
Great. Yes, I'd like to know that too.
The reason that it is not a good idea is because it is not possible under Article 5. The arguments that the John Birches have made, the Constitution Party, the Eagle Forum, the Libertarians, some of them, the reason that they have, the reason why there's this idea that an Article 5 convention called for by the state legislatures would result in a constitutional convention is because they have misunderstood what a delegate is. Under the delegates who are the founders in the Constitutional Convention, their commission was different from the delegates today. The Constitutional Convention delegates had the responsibility of creating a new document. That was the Constitution. Right. And that was because the old document failed. Now, given that responsibility, they had a lot of parameters to work with, and they were forming rules that went way beyond just one amendment. But when they built in Article 5, what they said is, okay, state legislators, you are the sovereign body from this point forward. You are the deliberative body. You're the one who decides what the amendment is, what the text is, and what is going to be required at the convention. So when the Article 5 delegates are called by Congress, or summoned by Congress and appointed by the states, they are not appointed as founders. They are not equivalent to founders. But the other side, the anti-Article 5 groups and even the pro-Article 5 groups, they have argued that they are. They are not. And when you consider the idea that it's for proposing amendments only in Article 5, you understand that they become ambassadors. They become agents of the legislatures. They are not free agents sent to do their own will. That's why there is no constitutional convention provision under Article 5. But on the other hand, if you wanted to make a new constitution, here's what the states would have to do. They would have to secede from the Union. They have to convene a convention unique to themselves, not authorized by Article 5, and then they would have to write a new document and form a new government. Then they will have a new constitution. But until they secede from the Union, there is no opportunity under Article 5 to create a new constitution through a constitutional convention. The term is a misnomer. It should never have been introduced into the debate. It is a wrong term, and it's really an amendment convention. It is not a constitutional convention.
Jose, do you have a question?
No, I do not.
Okay, well, I do.
Okay, good.
Imagine that. Charles, how are you finding the reception as you're reaching out to these state legislators? And do you can you tell us which states have been receptive to you? I know that you're working with states to assist in them drafting a counterman.
Well, we have 14 states right now who are sponsoring our amendment, and there are 3 documents, and we expect to get to 34 by the middle of next year. We need 34 in order to force Congress to convene a convention, and we're calling it the Counterman Amendment Convention. Now, that's another misnomer. The word application has been misused by those groups who have opposed the idea of a convention or claim that you can only have a constitutional convention. The idea of an application is this. In the Constitution, Article 5 says that when 2/3 of the state legislatures apply to Congress for Congress to convene a convention, then that convention will be called for by Congress. Now, it is an application until the 34th application is completed. When the 34th state completes its application, it's no longer an application. It's now an order. It's a mandate. Congress has no choice. They are now under the direction of the state legislatures to convene the convention. They do not have a process to follow. They don't have the options to say, well, we're not going to convene it. They don't. If they play political tricks on the states under the sovereignty that they have in the Constitution could convene their own convention under the Article 5 provisions. But the point that I guess I'm needing to address here has to do with these groups that have taken the word application and made it to be something what it was not. The Congress under Article 5, is the facilitator for the state legislatures. It's a process that the founders set up in order to have an orderly process, in order to have a convention convened when the 34th state completes the application. And then lastly, there is one thing that Congress does have to be aware of. Congress does have a responsibility here that goes in this direction. First of all, they all take an oath to protect our Constitution against domestic and foreign enemies. So they have to defend the Constitution. Now, I know that they don't. I know that they miscue in every way you can imagine in order to get a political end accomplished. But they have the obligation to do that. Now, when the Congress exercises that authority properly, what they need to do is to make certain that the convention that is being called for and applied for by the states is not for the purpose of disrupting the conduct of the federal government. So, for an example, if the states called for, 34 states called for a convention that was for the balanced budget amendment, another convention that was for term limits, another convention that was in the social issue, maybe parental rights, another convention for the countermand amendment, another convention for reining in government, and you had all of these mixed in 34 calls, Congress wouldn't know what kind of a convention it was. Since it was for the purpose of proposing amendments, they would have difficulty trying to decide how to convene a convention for the purposes called for by the states. So our solution to this, and I believe this is what the founders had in mind, is to define the call for the convention in one amendment at a time. So that when Congress gets 34 applications from the states for the countermand amendment convention, there's no ambiguity. There's no confusion on Congress's part, and they can't play politics with it. If they delay it and they play political correctness with it, then the states are, in their own applications, which we have, are then obligated to convene their own convention. And that's, I hope that answers your question.
Which would override the federal government.
No question about it. Actually, the states are making rules that the federal government has to follow. You see, that's the point of this whole affair of Article 5.
Now, what are the issues that are being placed in front of them with the countermands that are being requested?
The countermand amendment is not something that we're asking Congress to consider. The countermand amendment it's called the countermand amendment application on Congress. It's a resolution passed by the state legislatures which literally says, whereas Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution of the United States guarantees to every state a Republican form of government. There are certain declaratory statements. And then it directs Congress to convene the single-issue amendment convention called the Countermand Amendment Convention.
Okay.
Now, when that happens, now the delegates are summoned by Congress, and then the state legislatures have to appoint the delegates. Now, this is the part that we miss if we don't understand the importance of a delegate resolution. You see, there is another section in the Constitution called Article 1, Section 10. What it does, it prevents the states from entering into interstate compacts or agreements with one another without the approval of Congress. Well, we don't want Congress in the middle of this. We don't want Congress's permission for anything. We want the legislatures to retain sovereignty. And therefore, in that sovereign status, they are the deliberative bodies. So what they are doing and agreeing to, and 14 states have already agreed to this, and we've got many others that are working in that direction, but what they are saying is, we will not enter into an interstate agreement between the states. We will enter an agreement that is for our delegates who we send to the convention. It's a contract between the delegates and the legislatures. It's the same kind of contract that each state that makes their application completes so that there's uniformity at the convention. But then when they send the delegates are bound, one, to organize the convention in a way whereby it's one vote per state, organize the convention so 50% of the states can make a decision, not some other number, 60 or 80% or something, and that the condition is to be organized in such a way where it will be orderly and not in mayhem. Now, it is possible, if you get 530-some delegates from the different states, all called to a convention and they don't have any direction, it is possible that you could have mayhem, not another constitutional convention. And that mayhem could create real issues for the convention itself. So the delegate resolution solves all of that. And because the legislatures are sovereign and deliberative, they can do that. You know,
Right.
And one more thing, V, and I'll let you interject a thought here if you'll allow, with your permission. If I am the CEO of a major corporation, and I call in my executive VP and I say to him, sir, I need you to take on this task, and I want such and such accomplished, and I want it done in 6 months. And he looks at it and he says, I don't like the idea. And he says to me, I'm not going to do it. And I'd talk to him and I'd say, wait a minute, what are you talking about? What is wrong with it? I just don't like it and I'm not going to bother with it. What am I going to do? I'm the sovereign agent here. I'm going to fire him.
Correct.
I don't need his permission to fire him. And so,
Okay.
You see, and the legislatures don't need Congress's permission to fire them.
Very nice.
Okay.
You see? So that's the difference between what we are advancing and what all of the other Article 5s are advancing. We don't want Congress's permission for anything. We want Congress just to do their job as a facilitator, convene the convention that's called for, to give them the parameters so they don't have any ambiguity, and at the same time conduct the convention with the deliberative sovereign status in the legislatures. Now we have a safe convention, we have a quick convention, maybe only seven days, and the whole convention could be over. You see, the other groups like COS and others, they could take years before a convention is completed. So
right.
When you get these delegates coming to a convention, 530 of them, you've got, and they're all politically charged, they're all coming to the convention with some agenda that they have. You've got 50 from California and 1 from Wyoming. Think about that. Who's going to win if you don't have a Republican form of government to start with? You don't have a choice. I mean, the smaller states don't have any authority at the convention. It'll be mayhem, and you will accomplish nothing. But
I
with the
agree.
delegate resolution, you've got a safe and quick convention, and a successful one.
Okay. Charles, you had mentioned you've got 14 states out of 34 that you need, which is the minimum number. What size of organization are you working with? Do you guys have, with boots on the ground, working with these other states and trying to make this all happen?
Well, I think at last count we had about 330 million. But we lost count at that point because we realized we didn't have 330 million people in the population. So we had to scale that back. And we then recounted it. And I suppose we have about 150 people who are either directors, supporters, or in some other way helping us in the States.
So actually a very small, relatively small organization for the size of the undertaking that you're trying to accomplish here.
That's correct. But the misnomer here, again, is the other side, that is the Article 5 groups that are claiming that you have everybody and their brother persuaded that they're doing the right thing and supporting you. That's not the way our government works. You see, our government doesn't work based on everybody in the population agreeing on anything. Our government works on the basis of a Republican form of government in which a majority of states decide the future of the country. And so here, there are many precedents in our history that point this out to be true. For an example, with Roe versus Wade. For those out there who are pro-life advocates, you'll understand this to be very critical. When they decided that issue, the Supreme Court, 7 out of 9 justices decided Roe versus Wade in favor of the so-called choice term that has now become popular. Now, when they did that, they took a nation that up to that point was totally pro-life. Every state had sanctity of life amendments and or statutes protecting the unborn's life. And they changed a pro-life nation into a death culture.
They absolutely did.
Yes,
Charles, I'm going to have to ask you to hold on for just a moment. We've got to take a break. Please stay with us. I'm V. Wright. I'm here with
Jose Estevez.
And we'll be back in just a moment.
This is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet. Check out our website at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media. This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
How are things with the new guy?
All we do is go out to dinner.
That's it?
I mean, he picks up the tab every time, which is great.
Why? He's using you. He probably has a city thank you card and he gets 2 times the points at restaurants.
So he's just racking up points with me.
Some people.
Ugh.
No, I got it.
The Citi Thank You Preferred Card. Now earn 2 times the points on dining out and entertainment with no annual fee. To apply, go to Citi.com/thankyoucards.
The most amazing thing about the Ford Fusion isn't the way it looks. The most amazing thing is the way it sees. With blind spot technology, a lane keeping system, and a standard rear view camera, the Fusion is ready for whatever comes your way. Go prepared. Go further.
You think you know the story of Dracula? You have no idea. But I'm going to show you.
My enemies threaten to destroy my kingdom. I want the power to save my family.
Drink.
Welcome to your life.
My name is Dracula.
What's happening to you?
I chose this. Because men do not fear swords. They fear monsters.
This is not who you are.
There's always a prize for power.
Everybody wants to rule.
I will not be defeated!
Dracula Untold, in theaters and IMAX October 10th. The Ouija board has existed for centuries. It is used to communicate with the dead.
If there's a presence here, please make yourself known. This is a joke. Oh my god. It's not even real, okay?
It's just a game.
Ouija.
We're saying goodbye!
Rated PG-13.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Protest line, freedom scribbled on your sign. Headline, New York Times, standing on the edge of a revolution. Hey, hey, just obey your secret safe with the NSA. In God we trust, or the CIA, standing on the edge of a revolution. Yeah, we're standing on the edge of a revolution. Revolution. We're no, we don't wanna hear another word you say, 'cause we know they're all depending on mass of a revolution. What do we want? We want change. And how we gonna get there? Revolution. What do we want? We want change. Standing on the edge of a revolution. No, we won't give up. We won't go away. Cause we're not about to live in this mass delusion. No, we don't wanna hear another word you say. Cause we know they're out there living on mass confusion. No, we can't turn back. We can't turn away. Cause this time we are relying on the last solution. No, we won't lay down and accept this fate. Cause we're standing on the edge of a revolution. What do we want? We want change. And how we gonna get there? Revolution. What do we want? We want change. Standing on the edge of a revolution. What do we want? We want change. And how we gonna get there? Revolution. What do we want? We want change.
All right, this is WTF. I'm V. Wright.
I'm Jose Estevez. Folks,
And-
give us a call. 313-462-0068. Do you have questions or anything else for Charles while we have him? He's coming back here at with us. Give us a call. 313-462-0068. Mr. Kaprowicz, if you can just pick up where you left off, you were talking about Roe versus Wade, and I know that's something a lot of us are interested in, and if you could just resume right there with your wonderful conversation and knowledge, we would appreciate that.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity of sharing these things. We were addressing the decision by Roe versus Wade with the Supreme Court, or by the Supreme Court, and there were 7 men who made that decision out of 9, and in that decision they established an amendment to the Constitution because of the supremacy clause in the Constitution that says that the Supreme Court is to have a certain final say in issues that, and there were some cases after that really confirmed that in the early part of our history. But at any rate, it said that the Supreme Court, once they decide something, it's the law of the land, regardless of what Congress says. So they became supreme over Congress, and they became supreme over the states because the states acquiesced to it. But with Roe versus Wade, they did something worse than that. What they did is they amended the Constitution against the will of the 50 states, which were, well, at that time it wasn't 50, but yes, it was, excuse me. But anyway, against the will of the states, the purpose for which, all of which, rather, the states had the purpose of protecting the unborn child's life, and they amended the Constitution, granting this right of privacy, which wasn't even in the Constitution, to women, claiming that their bodies were private, and therefore the child in the body was something that they alone had the right to decide if it should live or die. At any rate, when they amended the Constitution as such, they ratified, let me rephrase it, when they made this decision, they amended the Constitution without the ratification by the states. That's the greatest flaw in our legal system when we allow the Supreme Court to ratify our Constitution, pushing the states aside. So the states never had a chance to say that we want that as an amendment. They only had a chance to decide that they could change the Supreme Court's ruling by creating a new amendment themselves through state legislatures and through conventions, but because of the political climate over the last 41 years, that has not been possible. So Roe versus Wade stayed put, and we today are 50 million babies dead. What troubles me too is that American fathers have tolerated this. This is the heritage of the American man. Yes, it's true, the woman has certain interests that she needs to be protected. She has to be protected in case her pregnancy results in some kind of a life-threatening situation. We understand that. That's between her and her doctor. But she has no right to decide if her husband or her boyfriend's children should live or die. I have 2 sons. I have 7 grandchildren. I love them to pieces. And I enjoy them in ways I don't have words to express. But to think that my wife could have killed one of them along the way just before they were born, that's obnoxious to me. I can't even imagine such a thing.
Without consultation with you.
And even then it shouldn't even be allowed, because the man shouldn't be allowed to do that either. You see?
I agree. I am definitely pro-life.
Yes,
So
we are.
that the man has been silent is a great disgrace. And because our culture has moved to being a kind of a matriarchal feminist culture over the last 50 years, the man has been marginalized in many ways. This is just one way. And so the countermand amendment could literally, with 30 states, countermand Roe versus Wade and rescind it. The Supreme Court would not be able to reinstate it, and as a result, the state legislatures would be controlling the pro-life issue. And they then would
which is exactly where it should be. Most of these the laws that are passed or allowed to pass are done so on a federal level without any consideration anymore from our individual states. We send representatives in the form of congressmen and senators to Washington, D.C., and they are no longer umbilically tied to their states. And so their interest is not for their state until it's time to be reelected.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. And the states with the countermand amendment could have the authority that they once had before Roe versus Wade in their hands, before every state decided the issue. Now, no state decides the issue because of Roe versus Wade.
Charles, what is the possibility of getting these individual states on board with going back to the way it used to be with our representatives that we send to Washington, D.C. in the form of congressmen and senators, that they have to report back to their states? They are umbilically tied to their state.
Well, we know that the 17th Amendment intended for the states to control the senators in the Congress, or at least have great influence on their decisions. That is before the 17th Amendment. When the 17th Amendment came into play, that was removed. The legislatures no longer influenced it.
Exactly.
There is a place for, in the House representing their districts. There is a place for that collective body to come up with agreements that are consistent with the collective will of the citizenry in the different states. That's a different issue.
Right.
We can't undo all of the problems that we have had over the last, I'd say, 75 years or so. But at the same time, with the countermand amendment, what we can do is force the federal government, before they make a law, and before they throw it down the throats of the states, force the federal government to say, wait a minute, this could be countermanded by 30 states, and by doing so, the law would be rescinded before it was really enacted. And as a result, when they write a law with the countermand amendment in place, they will write it in a way that's amenable to the states. And the countermand amendment also will have authority to to rescind laws and rulings that are already on the books, that are onerous and burdensome to the states or their citizens. So the countermand amendment makes the 17th Amendment ineffective, because all of a sudden it controls the Senate in a way that the Senate can't even imagine now. You see, because now 30 states could say to the Senate and the House, look, that law is unacceptable, and we will not allow you to enforce it on us. This kind of rescission power, which they should have anyway. That's why that's why there are state legislatures in a republic. But with this rescission power, could actually address unfunded liabilities. It could address land grabs in the states. Last Tuesday night, we had a fellow from New Hampshire, a legislator from New Hampshire, Representative Ullery, on our show. And Mike Coons, our national director, said, we, out of Alaska, he said, Representative Ullery, out in the West and the Midwest, we have a serious problem with land grabs. And, Nevada, 81% of the land of Nevada is controlled by the federal government, 65% up in Alaska, and it just goes like that all the way across the West. And we just assumed that New Hampshire didn't have this problem. And Representative Ullery said, now wait a minute, 20% of our land is controlled by the federal government.
That is unreal.
And so all of a sudden we found that issue alone being seeing a possibility that it would be supported by 30 states across the country, little states, even some eastern states.
Well, it had, one of the reasons, I have supported you for a while, and you know that.
Yes, I do.
I've worked with you for a while. I worked for you for a while. And having the luxury of listening to you interact interact with these legislators on a nightly basis and listening to the way that they respond, let me assure the listening public out there that these legislators are uninformed. Once Charles explains to them how the process works, they are so receptive. They are looking for a way for their individual states to control their own destiny within their borders. Georgia's not looking to make California do. They're just saying, this is Georgia, and we have our own perimeters. Or this is Oklahoma, and we have our own perimeters. And they are very receptive. And look at the possibilities and the potential for this. Look at what can be done if we can get all of our state legislators on board. But Charles, I guess the biggest question I have for you is, how is it that you're having to go nationwide and educate these people because they have no idea?
Well, I don't know the answer to how is. I do know that it's a big task. But here's the reason why we can win, regardless of whether it be 50 states or just 34 states for the applications. The fact is, the Constitution allows 34 states to apply and to have the convention convened. That's the first thing. Second, in each legislature, we only need 51% of the legislatures to approve it. So now and there are only 7,300 legislators across the country. So now we have 51% that have to approve that. And then with our delegate resolution, we only need 26 states to approve that. And then within those states, only 51% of the delegates. And so this 51%, 34, and 26 rule that we apply makes it possible for us to win. We don't need all 50 states. We don't need all 7,300 legislators. We don't need 300 million people. We live in a republic. As long as this republic is preserved, we can win. If this republic is lost, that somehow the left decides that it is now to be changed permanently, we lose. And we will lose our country.
Wow.
Okay. Charles, I have a question for you from a listener. He's made the following statement, and I'd like to know your thoughts on it, and he's given me permission. He said very simply, the 17th Amendment killed states' rights. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the 17th Amendment did kill the right of the states to control the senators that were to be sent to the Senate. And of course, it was a legislative prerogative, not a popular vote prerogative. Now, in that, there has been a loss of power by the states because it went to a political arena rather than a legislative arena in the states. On the other hand, the Countermand Amendment will put a stop to the losses that the states have experienced as a result of the 17th Amendment being ratified. The states made a big mistake when they ratified it, and they did it under political coercion. But the fact is, when they did it, they did diminish their sovereign authority. But once again, they didn't even know what their sovereign authority was at that time. And had they known that, they wouldn't have amended and ratified the 17th Amendment. But the Countermand Amendment can counter that. They can't rescind the 17th Amendment simply because that's another amendment. That would take a rescission amendment, which we are not calling for.
Right.
We have enough trouble with the Countermand Amendment, going forward. But the point is that the Countermand Amendment will allow 30 states to stop the Senate from doing what they're doing right now, and to prevent the Senate from holding things up in a way that prevent the Congress as a whole from taking on bills, passing them, or denying them. And when that Congress finally decides to do something, then they will have to, with this Countermand Amendment ratified, they will have to consider the general will of the states, because they will know that 30 states could rescind their law or ruling. And therefore, they will look at the states as partners in government, not subjects to federal mandates. Very important that we understand that.
It really is, and so many of our legislators don't know this, so many of our individuals don't know this, and that is why it was so important to me to have you come on the show and discuss these things. Guys, the other thing I want to make sure to let you guys know is Charles Kaplowitz hosts a weekly program. It's called State Legislators Roundtable. It is going to be following our show every Tuesday night from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. And if you like our show, you hear the man, you know what he's talking about, tune in. Make sure that you know what's going on so that you know in which direction to move that is the most effective move on a legislative body. So please, I ask all of you to spread the word. Let everyone know that Charles Kaprowitz will be on CPR Worldwide Media.com Tuesday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. right here doing his show, State Legislators Roundtable.
Thank you, Zita, Veronica. Rather, there's one thing I would add to that. Just today, the CPR people opened up the door for us to have a second show each week, and that's going to be on Friday nights from 8 to 10.
I knew we were going to do it. I knew we were going to do it. You and I had discussed this, and I knew it was in the works, and I'm very glad. Have we determined a name for the new show?
Well, no. I'm not thinking of changing it. The State Legislators Roundtable is the tentative name. But we may change it, but basically what we're thinking of, both of them are 2-hour programs, and we're thinking of the legislators being the guests on the show in the first hour, whether it be Friday and or Tuesday, which gives them a little flexibility in deciding what show they can attend. And then the second hour, if we don't have a legislator from a third state that week, then we're planning to open it up for a listening audience, comments, questions, complaints if they want, and it'll be in a call-in forum as well as a chat room forum.
That is phenomenal. I am so glad to hear it. It is something that we had discussed. I knew it was in the works. I did not know we were going to open up is that going to be on the board for Friday?
Yes, this coming Tuesday and this Friday is our first week.
That is phenomenal. I am so glad to hear it. So you guys heard it here first. It will be on Tuesday night from 9 to 11 and Friday night, and the hours are, Charles, same hours?
On Tuesday, it's 9 to 11. On Friday, it's 8 to 10.
8 to 10 on Friday, 9 to 11. So we're not here on Friday nights. WTF, the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot show is not on Friday nights. We are only here Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9. Charles will be following us on Tuesday nights from 9 to 11. On Friday nights, he will be here from 8 to 10. You guys tune in. Make sure you let everyone know. Post it on your Facebook pages, your groups, and any other websites that you're on to let people know and promote it. It's an opportunity for us to learn how to fight on a legislative level. And you're listening to someone who absolutely has it down pat. And Jose, go ahead.
Our knowledge will grow incrementally listening to the show. I have no doubt.
Well, thank you, Jose. I appreciate that kind comment. Now, on Tuesday night at 9 o'clock, we have Representative Carl Rogers from Georgia, who will be our guest in the first hour at 9 o'clock. So he's going to be discussing issues in the state of Georgia as they are relating to federal encroachment on states' rights. And the show will go in any direction he wants it to go in, because our purpose is to help him see how the countermeasure amendment can help solve those issues for Georgia. And it'll be a good show. I have not had a bad show with the legislators. As a matter of fact, I have learned to see these legislators, contrary to what many have, many have a view of legislators today as kind of like dummies. They are, and I think that there's some truth in that. There are a lot of them.
I was going to say, careful where you tread there, Charles, because we've talked to some of them too.
But I want to add to that thing. Some of these guys that have been coming on my show, I look to more, because of the level of understanding, their concern, I look to them more as statesmen. They're trying to find solutions for their states. That's why they're on the show. And so they're not just filling in space as a legislator in a political career. They're struggling to make things met. This guy from New Hampshire told me last night, he said, Charles, do you know how much I get paid every year for being a legislator? And I've been a legislator for many years. I said, I have no idea. He said, $100 a year. Think about that. He's a legislator from New Hampshire and he gets paid $100 a year. It takes a dedicated man with conviction to do something like that.
I would agree with that. No doubt.
So, at any rate, most of our state legislators today do not understand the things that we talked about tonight, but there are some that are willing to learn, and they're coming on this show, and that show has been a phenomenal success for getting them to go back into their legislatures, including the Mount Vernon and Legislative Assembly. We've got people going with our material into that body in great numbers. But the fact is, our influences are beginning to get stronger, and these legislators are beginning to become real friends, not just people to attend as guests on our program.
Well, exactly. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit on, some of the states and the reception that you've gotten on your show with the legislators, and any questions that our listening audience may have. Guys, please call in 313-462-0068. Don't squander an opportunity to ask your question. Jose?
Yes, let's go to the break.
We'll go to a break. We'll be back in a moment, guys.
This is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet. Check out our website at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media. This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
How are things with the new guy?
All we do is go out to dinner.
That's it?
I mean, he picks up the tab every time, which is great.
Why? He's using you. He probably has a city thank you card and he gets 2 times the points at restaurants.
So he's just racking up points with me.
Some people.
Ugh.
No, I got it.
The City Thank You Preferred Card. Now earn 2 times the points on dining out and entertainment with no annual fee. To apply, go to city.com/thankyoucards.
It's not about how many miles you can get out of the C-Max Hybrid. It's about how much life you can fit into it. The Ford C-Max Hybrid, with an EPA estimated range of 540 miles on a tank of gas, and all the room you need to enjoy the trip. Go stretch out. Go further.
You think you know the story of Dracula. You have no idea. But I'm going to show you.
My enemies threaten to destroy my kingdom. I want the power to save my family.
Dreams.
Welcome to your life.
My name is Dracula.
What's happening to you?
I chose this. Because men do not fear swords. They fear monsters.
This is not who you are.
There's always a prize for power.
Everybody wants to rule.
I will not be defeated!
Dracula Untold, in theaters and IMAX, October 10th. The Ouija board has existed for centuries. It is used to communicate with the dead.
If there's a presence here, please make yourself known. This is a joke. Oh my god. It's not even real, okay?
It's just a game.
Ouija.
We're saying goodbye!
Rated PG-13.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Well, if you ask me where I come from, here's what I tell everyone. I was born by God's dear grace in an extraordinary place where the stars and stripes and the eagle fly. It's a big old land with countless dreams. Happiness ain't out of reach. Hard work pays off the way it should. Yeah, I've seen enough to know that we've got it good. Where the stars and stripes and the eagle fly. There's a lady that stands in a harbor for what we believe. And there's a bell that still echoes the price that it costs to be free. I pledge allegiance to this flag. And if that bothers you, well, that's too bad. But if you got pride and you're proud you do, hey, we could use some more like me and you. Where the stars and stripes and the eagle fly. Yes, there's a lady that stands in a harbor for what we believe. And there's a bell that still echoes the price that it costs to be free. No, it ain't the only place on earth, but it's the only place that I prefer to love my wife and raise my kids, hey, the same way that my daddy did. Where the stars and stripes and the eagle fly. Where the stars and stripes and the eagle fly.
All right, we welcome you back to WTF. It's the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Show. I'm your host, V. Wright.
And I am Jose Estevez. Folks, we're back with Charles Kaprowicz, and I've got a question for him leading us back after the break. And again, if you have any questions here at the last part of the show for him, our number is 313-462-0068. Give us a call or get us hold of us on Facebook or however you want to, and we'll try to get that to him in the time remaining. But Charles, why don't you explain the difference between your group, the single issue amendment convention strategy, and the convention of states? Can you explain that in layman's terms for our listeners to understand?
I will try, Jose, and I thank you for bringing me back into your show. The approach that we have is based on the idea that the state legislatures in Article 5 are the sovereign deliberative body. That means they're the boss. They decide what Congress is to do, the courts, the executive branch, even the governor, or even the regulatory agencies. They decide that in a convention with a pre-approved text for a particular single-issue amendment, so that when the delegates are sent to the convention, they have instructions on how to conduct themselves, how to organize the convention, how to make it a Republican form of convention, so each state has one vote, and also how to vote. They're really going to decide if a pre-approved text for the countermand amendment, in our case, is going to be approved at that convention. That vote has to take place. All states have to have an equal vote. But if we have 26 delegate resolutions, then the voting is going to be in our favor, and we will win, because that means 51% of the state delegations will be required to vote according to the instructions in the delegate resolution from their legislatures. Now, on the other hand, Convention of States is not trying to advance a countermand amendment. Our countermand amendment has two provisions that are extremely important. One of which is it gives the states to countermand and rescind any law or regulatory ruling that the 30 states, that is 60% of the states, consider to be burdensome to their citizens or to their businesses and or their industries. And as a result, the state legislatures have tremendous authority as a result of exercising countermands. On the other hand, Convention of States is asking the legislatures to apply to Congress for the Convention of States convention, which is for the purpose of defining three issues: reigning in government, the balanced budget amendment or financial aspects of the Congress, and then 3 term limits. Now, when they are proposing this to the legislatures, they are asking the legislatures simply to make application for that COS convention and not to define the particulars at the convention. So Congress is now going to get these applications, and they're not yet doing it, but Congress will get those applications and have to decide what kind of convention this is going to be. Is it going to be reigning in government? Is it going to be balanced budget? Is it going to be term limits? And then, assuming that they even authorize that, I don't think Congress will. I think Congress is going to say, hey, this is too ambiguous. We don't see the unison here for proposing an amendment. And so as a result, they may reject the applications, even though there could be 34. But if they do allow the convention to convene, the next step will be under the COS proposal, COS meaning Convention of States, they then will send, the state legislatures will send delegates to the convention. Now, COS sees the delegates that would go to the convention as ambassadors, as free agents rather, equivalent to the founders in the Constitutional Convention. I had a discussion with a gentleman by the name of Michael Farris, who I respect greatly. He is one of the top executives at COS. He had called me one day and had tried to engage me in his organization, trying to get me to join them on their executive panel. And I said, well, I would be glad to find some common ground. And he said, well, okay. And his other constitutional scholar and lawyer is Rob Nadelson, who I also know very, very well. But right. At any rate, so I said to him, I said, would you, if I do this, I said, would you agree that the states should also have a resolution called the delegate resolution? And by having that delegate with a pre-approved text for an amendment and instructing the delegates so they become bind ambassadors to their, and he said, no, we want the delegate. He also said he wanted to be a delegate. But the fact is, he saw the delegates as the one in charge. He saw the delegates going to the convention to make the big decisions. I see the delegates with the COS going to convention creating mayhem. I don't see unison. And it may take years for the delegates to resolve anything. Let's say that they want to reign in government as one of the subjects that they were telling the delegates to consider. Well, under that one title, you might have 12 subtitles that the delegates would have to decide. And each one of them would be politically charged. And then under each one of those 12, you could have 12 more. And you could have dozens and dozens of issues that will have to be settled by the delegates before they can decide on an amendment on how to reign in government. Do you reign in the federal government at the judicial level or congressional level or the executive level? How about the regulatory agencies? How do you define what you want to do? And they want the delegates to decide that. We do not. We want the state legislatures to decide these issues. And since they are the deliberative body, the fact is when they are elected by the people, they are elected to deliberate. And they deliberate in a certain way that is for the good of the people. Well, why would they abdicate that sovereign authority and give it to a delegate an unelected delegate who is going to be deciding matters that the legislatures may not even agree with, much less the citizenry? So the concept is wrong. And then when COS advances their strategy of sending these delegates, what they're doing is they are assuming that that Article 5 is not for proposing amendments only. They admit, and they claim rather, that the delegates could amend the Constitution in ways that would alter the Constitution dramatically. They claim that they can stop that with their subject restrictions, but they can't. And they can't stop the mayhem. Now, what they don't recognize is that under Article 5, the only purpose is to propose amendments. So their statement that they might be able to or could rewrite certain parts of the Constitution is based on flawed thinking. So in my discussions with them, I realized that their approach is a dangerous one. It's flawed constitutional thinking. Historically, they are applying rules that existed 100 years ago, 200 years ago. They're looking at convention experience, which was during the Constitutional Convention and before. There really were no conventions since then. And so as a result, there's taking all of those which have nothing to do with our Constitution, because our Constitution didn't exist yet, and they're saying those rules should apply to how you define a delegate at a convention.
Exactly.
And so as a result, sovereignty is thrown out the window. And the poor delegates, who over the last 30 plus years have been listening to this kind of reasoning, especially from those that are anti-Article 5 groups, and they've been just scared stiff. What do you mean? We can only have a constitutional convention? We better not. We're going to lose Article 1 or Amendment 1 or Amendment 2 or our rights to bear arms or whatever. We're going to lose it because the delegates could, well, there is a safety measure even in this confusion that could be created, and that is 38 states still have to ratify with this Constitution any amendment that would come out. But I doubt if anything meaningful will ever come out of a COS convention because of the reasons I just gave. They're subject conventions. They have no definitive explanation as to what the issues are, and they have no binding aspect to what the delegates have to decide on. And as a result, the delegates would have free latitude to define what the problems are. What do you mean term limits? Are we going to use it just for the Supreme Court? Are we going to use it for the term limit of the president? Is it going to be congressional term limits? How do you define term limits? And that's going to be a big debate by 534 politically charged delegates.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's the reason why we go in the direction that we're going, and why we are, even though I see COS as an ally, I don't see them as a partner. And I see them as a way that could get this nation in trouble. And if they win, and these delegates go to a convention unbound, they will be setting a precedent that future generations of legislatures will find, I think, almost impossible to reverse. Because they will have established the idea that under Article 5, the delegates are sovereign. The delegates decide everything. You see, and I want the legislatures to reject that kind of reasoning.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense that if you get into a situation like that and everybody is not in agreement going in, and there's no room for debate except for you've got 500 and some odd people sitting there going to bang their heads against the table and slam it out. You're not going to get 500 and some odd people to agree on anything.
Certainly not.
So I too see the flaw in that particular pattern. And I think our listeners do too. We've got a pretty bright bunch out there. We're very fortunate, Charles, that we have Princeton and University of North Florida, and I believe we have some colleges a college out in Alabama. I know for certain. We have some members of Harvard that listen into our show, and from Yale. But our Princeton kids, They're my children. They're my adopted children.
Yes, they are.
And I've already gotten posts on our chat feature that say that they are going to be requesting of CPR to allow them to utilize your recordings of your show for educational purposes at their colleges.
Thank you, kids. And I am proud, too, of our kids that really understand the importance of our constitutional history and our heritage. We don't want to forsake it, nor do we want you guys to just be indifferent to it. We want you to be active, and I thank you for your interest in what we're doing.
Well, we have some amazing young people that listen to our show. We are very blessed in that facet. And, we repeat to them all the time that they are the reason that we do what we do. It's for them and younger generations. You and I and Jose, we're not long of this earth. We're not going to be here forever. We're not going to have to deal with this 50 years from now. They are.
That's right. And not only that, what we would like to do is to leave them with a tool in this countermeasure amendment that will help them to remain free, to remain as a constitutional republic, so they can govern themselves in a way that keeps them as free men. That's really my burden. And when we look at the countermeasure amendment, it becomes a powerful tool for state legislatures to work out ways that they can countermand encroachment by the federal government on states' rights that really are causing problems and are taking away our liberties. So this tool, the state legislatures are going to learn how to use. They're going to learn how to cooperate with one another in making their countermands. And there's another part to this that's very important. We already have a national strategy committee being organized. We have many legislators who are already part of it. We have citizens who are part of it. We have a steering committee that helps to steer it. And the purpose is in this committee is after the countermeasure amendment is ratified, and I do believe we will get it ratified by 2016. That'll be when the countermeasure initiatives will start. But once those countermeasure initiatives start by the states, the planning committee is going to have a big part. Why? Because the legislators from the different states will be meeting in a way that will allow them to decide what issues should be addressed. What problems do they have to confront? And they will be doing it on a bipartisan, if not a nonpartisan basis, and then they will be selecting what ones that they want citizen initiatives as the facilitator to help advance in the legislatures. Now, why is it citizen initiatives? Because we don't want the legislatures to be accused by anyone that they are violating Article 1, Section 10, prohibiting the states from having interstate agreements. But citizens can, you see. So even that aspect of it has been thought out. So this can be a very long-term
solution. It's a long-term solution. Well, guys, we have been so thankful and blessed to have Charles join us tonight on the show. Charles, we cannot thank you enough for coming and visiting with us this evening.
My honor. Thank you.
Want to remind you guys that Charles Kaprowitz will be doing Legislators Roundtable here on CPR Worldwide Media.com on Tuesday night following this show, the WTF, the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot show, from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. on Tuesday, and they will be on Friday evenings from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. We cannot encourage you enough to listen in and tune in their broadcast. As I've stated before, it gives you an opportunity to be educated. Jose, do you have something to add to this?
I just want to say thank you to Charles for his time and imparting the knowledge that he has tonight, and want to welcome him to CPR. He's a fine addition. The amount of knowledge he's going to be able to impart to people is just amazing. I've learned a lot tonight. I'm kind of in awe at this point. I haven't said much, just trying to soak it all in and understand it, because I think it provides a good alternative, to what a lot of people are thinking might be our only alternative, and that's that nothing else will work. But I think this can happen, and it wouldn't take forever either. I think you were talking about 2016, 2017, if we can get this all going, and indeed it's got forward momentum at this point. So I just welcome you, Charles, and thank you so much for what you've done here tonight, and we really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me, and I thank the audience for listening to what we were sharing.
Well, it is absolutely our pleasure. And I look forward to working with you for many years to come, Charles.
Thank you, Veronica. That makes a lot of difference.
And me as well. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, that was Charles Kaprowitz. He is the Executive Director for Citizens Initiative. If you have not checked out their Facebook page, please do so. Also, make sure that you do tune in on Tuesday night from 9 to 11, as well as Friday night from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. to the Legislators Roundtable discussion with Charles Kaprowitz. This is an opportunity for this country to move forward without revolution, without bloodshed. This man has presented the most hope that I have had in a decade in this country.
Very well said. Very well said. And we need that hope. This is critical, and it's at a critical juncture in our country, too. So it can't come soon enough.
Well, we had a lot of things on the table that we were going to discuss tonight, but I mean, once Charles gets going, you hate to cut him off. I could have listened to him another 2 hours because, certainly. I mean, he is just a wealth of information. I want to remind you guys too that he is an author, and if you have not read his books, you may want to pick them up, and as soon as his new book comes out, you can bet we will be letting you know about that.
Yes, we will.
I had no idea initially that he was as pro-life as he is. I did not know his influence into the legislature, and that is basically what led him into this path. I did not know that until today, and I thought I knew him fairly well. I mean, I knew about his books, and I just had no idea until today.
Well, we learn something every day, right? We try to keep an open mind and learn something every day.
That's it. Guys,
hey, V?
Yes, Tom?
I just wanted to say, it looks like the Big Apple's got its first case of Ebola. It looks like the doctor that came back from Africa, who was with Doctors Without Borders, tested positive.
Oh, really?
And he was just bowling last night, out on the town. A guy coming from the hot zone who's been working with these people. He goes out. He goes out into public.
He went
bowling. Did a bunch of other things.
And
did
dinner?
a bunch of other things.
My God.
So New York City, you got Ebola.
You have Ebola. Now saying, since my girl Tori is not here tonight, now I'm saying.
There we go.
New York, y'all got Ebola.
Shouldn't he know better?
One would think that a medical doctor that had been in the hot zone treating and was very well aware of what has happened to others who have come here from that area would understand the need for that voluntary quarantine.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. I say that all the time, but it is mind-boggling. And it looks like, I'm hoping this is wrong, but it looks like initial reports are saying the boyfriend of that nurse down in Texas, Pham, I can't remember her first name. Pham was her last name, but it sounds like he might have it as well. I can't confirm if he's tested positive or if they're checking him for it, but here we go there too. So it's man, I'll tell you.
Oh my goodness. Well, guys,
prayers out for everyone.
Amen to that. Guys, we've come to the end of yet another week of WTF, the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Show. I'm V. Wright.
I'm Jose Estevez.
And we're here every Monday through Thursday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. You guys can join us at the CPR Media Network group. Join our thread for chat. That is on Facebook. You can join us at our website, thewtfradioshow.com. You can listen in and stream us from CPR Worldwide Media.com. And we have enjoyed yet another week with you guys. Jose?
I certainly have, and I want to say I'm so thankful for all of our listeners. We love you. We do this for you. It's a labor of love, and God bless America.
Good night, folks. Y'all enjoy your weekend.
Have a great weekend. Be safe.